Good morning, Washington State. This is Amanda Polly with DVHR from the Washington State Healthcare Authority. I would like to say thank you for joining us. It looks like our attendance is actually climbing as we speak. We have almost about 400 people registered for this webinar, and it looks like we have about 135 people currently in attendance. And so I'd like to give it about 2 or 3 more minutes to allow everybody to go ahead and get ready. So currently right now we have Ms. Pat Tucker, and we are going to go ahead and she's going to go ahead and get her screen set up in order to make this available for everybody to see. So hold tight, folks, and we will be ready to start ASAP.
Can you see my screen?
I'm not sure, Miss Pat.
Oh, I think you have to give me permission.
I'm pretty sure it did. Did you accept it?
It didn't
I
show
made you an
up.
organizer.
Yeah.
So you should have the option of,
Okay.
they changed a few things around.
Okay. Huh. I'm trying to see how to show my screen.
I just made you the presenter, so see if that works now.
Okay.
There we go. I think that's working.
You see it?
I see something blank coming up so far. It looks like it's trying to connect. There we go. Yeah. Woohoo.
Woohoo! It worked.
It definitely works, at least for me. There it is. Yep, lots of people said that they can see it. So let's see here. All right, so we are ready, and all right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do a quick introduction. Now that it looks like everybody can see it. So I would like to introduce you, Ms. Pat, to Washington State, and Washington to Ms. Pat, even though I am sure everybody is familiar with you. So I want to say thank you, Pat Tucker of Advocates for Human Potential, for doing your wonderful vicarious trauma and self-care. Please secure your oxygen mask first. This is a very popular webinar series that, or webinar rather, that we actually put off from January till April of this year in order to allow for more people to attend because of the pit count. And so this is a really huge topic, especially right now, given the current
especially right now.
Yeah, right. And so throughout the webinar, I'll be regularly stopping and asking questions that are inside of the questions box. So please don't hesitate to throw a hand up, to ask some questions. We're totally down. We have an hour and a half. So we do love questions. We love interactions. This is a really big piece of this, is making sure that we're all feeling as though we have a voice in this. And so please, without further ado, Pat, take us away.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Pat Tucker. I work with Advocates for Human Potential, and thanks, Amanda. As taking care of yourself is so important, and it's especially important right now, more than ever. And so the name of this webinar is Please Secure Your Oxygen Mask First. And most of us, or a lot of us, have been on planes, and we always hear that, please secure your oxygen mask first. And you kind of ignore it after a while, but I think it applies to all of us in our work. And this is really for people who are out there doing the work and on the front lines, and even managers who have to deal with their staff. This hopefully will resonate with everybody. And I'm gonna see if I can. So that's me. The hair doesn't look like that anymore. It's a little bit more gray, and the locks are not there anymore. So, in this day and time, I haven't been able to get to my person. That which makes us good at and committed to this work is what also makes this challenging. The really good people who are out there doing the work and are committed to helping people and to making people with challenges be able to deal with those challenges is also what makes this really challenging for us. I mean, I used to be on the front line, and I can tell you that dealing with people and their stress and their challenges and their um, way of trying to cope with some very difficult and big issues sometimes triggers us. I've had to work with people, and some of the issues were my issues. And there's nothing harder than dealing with something that either you haven't dealt with yet, or it's still not resolved for you, and now you're trying to help somebody else resolve it. We do this work because we care. I'm sure that the majority of you probably care too much. Um, we we Most of us in this field are in this field for a reason. And I tell this to people all the time. A lot of us get into this field because we have had some of the same issues, or we've seen family members have some of the same issues, and so we get into this field because we feel it, we know it, we want to help. We want to help people be able to get through this. And so, being in this field already has already, made us to the point that we have some of our own um, issues or reasons. I'll share with you why I got into the field, and if anybody else out there wants to share why they think they're in the field. Now, this is just why I think I'm in the field. Um, I grew up in a very poor family, and there were days that we didn't have food to eat. My father was an alcoholic and died of alcohol related issues when I was 8. And I think that set the stage for me to get into this field because I was growing up in this environment where there was a lot of, just hurting, a lot of pain, a lot of undiagnosed depression, and just a lot of violence. And so it just made me want to get in there and help people. So I think sometimes we have to look back at why we got into this field, because why we got into this field kind of helps us to grow and also helps us to know what are some of the things that are going to trigger us. Is anybody wanted to share anything, or you don't have to. I'm just putting it out there.
Hey,
Um,
Pat.
yeah.
Karen said in here, for her it's to give back and to help people see recovery and long periods of wellness become possible.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Good. Yeah, I think it's important to think about why you got into this field. Because I think that helps you to know when things are going to be too close to you, like when you're going to have difficulty with dealing with certain issues. So some of the things I wanted to talk about today are burnout, compassion fatigue, secondary traumatic, and vicarious trauma. All four of those are, those are all just titles, but the end result is, if you see that poor little match that's just burnt to a crisp, all of these can lead to that same thing, burnt to a crisp. You don't have the compassion as much as you used to. You're also, you're dragging, you're going home just taking all of this stuff with you. That's what that's what being burnt looks like and feels like.
I can hear it. I can't watch it. It's still loading though.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, we can hear you. Can you see it? So one of the things that there's a price for caring, and I did some research, and it shows that people who help others, and that's what palliative means. It's people who help others are almost twice as high. Their stress scores are almost twice as high as those of newly widowed women. Now, think about that. Somebody who's just lost their spouse, um, our stress scores are twice as high as that. And it's also higher than patients who are newly diagnosed with breast cancer. So that's a lot of stress that we are carrying around. And so I think it's important to know that, that just by being in this field and trying to help people is going to be stressful. Another study showed that um, social workers, or people who are out there on the front lines, 39% have reported symptoms of burnout. 75% reported experiencing burnout at some point in their career. And 73% of the people who are in this field have considered leaving their job because it's that stressful. That's significant. Those, I mean, when I saw those numbers, I was shocked. Um, Also, people in social work have higher rates of burnout than other helping professions. Um, and then in one study, they showed that social workers, 74% are experiencing higher levels of anxiety. 62% of child protective service workers scored high on the measure of emotional exhaustion. So we are in a very stressful field. In another study, 82% of the people reported high psychological stress. 33% were experiencing emotional exhaustion, and 36% reported diminished feelings of personal accomplishment. Those are big numbers. We are in a very high stress field. And so with that comes, you know, and I remember talking to staff, and I still talk to staff, and many of them say, you know what, my issues are the same as the issues of the people I'm working with, or I am as traumatized as our clients. I've heard that over and over again, and it's true for a lot of us. We can be as traumatized as our clients. So let's talk a little bit about vicarious trauma. It's Vicarious trauma is when you have um, the same, you feel what the person you're working with is feeling. You can experience that trauma the same way that they're experiencing it. So basically, because you're empathic toward that person, you're going to feel what they feel. And I know there have been certain people that I've worked with that have been harder and have triggered that vicarious trauma, especially working with people where, there's some violence going on and they are the victim. It takes me right back to my issues. And I experience my issues all over again. I'm sure a lot of you have had, clients or whatever you call the people you work with. I hate the word clients, but I used to call the people I worked with tenants, sometimes consumers. I've not found the word except people that I'm comfortable with, but sometimes that gets confusing. Um, but when you are working with people who are really pulling on your heartstrings and you are feeling their pain in a way that you don't always feel it for other people, that's vicarious trauma. Hopefully that makes sense to people. When the some of the ways you're experiencing vicarious trauma, um you start to have difficulty sleeping, you have nightmares, you have anxiety, you have numbness, you're hypervigilant. Hypervigilance means you're just on like you're very aware of everything and just paying attention to everything. You're having a hard time experiencing pleasure because you're just exhausted and you don't have much left. You also start to do more caregiving on and off the job. You just go overboard trying to help everybody. Like you go to work, you help people there, you come home, you help friends, you help family. You can't stop, you can't turn it off. Um, you don't feel like you're that warm, compassionate, and optimistic person that you were when you got into this field. Your issues might start coming up, or things that you thought you had resolved might start coming back. And you might be dealing with some old stuff that you think or that you thought you had really gotten comfortable with and didn't need to focus on as much. You become angry easily and irritable, mostly because of fatigue. Even though you feel like you're doing all the things you need to do, that fatigue will wear you down. um Little things feel big, and I this one for me is I know I'm doing too much, or I know I'm experiencing my vicarious trauma because the little tiny things, somebody says the wrong word to you and you feel it in a way that you normally would have just let it go, and you can't let it go. Depression, exhaustion. You become very critical of yourself and feel like you're not doing enough, or you should be doing better, or you should be doing all of these things. Anybody out there have different signs of, compassion fatigue, or are these ringing true for you? Oops, I wanted to go back and I went forward. I'm just curious if anybody is writing anything in the chat box, or anybody
Yes.
want to say anything.
So some people are saying all of them. Some people are saying overeating comfort foods, which I totally relate
Oh
to.
my goodness,
Um,
yes.
right? Irritability. A lot of people are saying all of them, and I'm a big fan. Well, I wouldn't say fan, but I am a big relator to eating my feelings, so I
Mhm.
completely understand. Some people zone out on their phone, so I totally understand that too. Your mind, Sharon Young said, your mind won't calm down, so I get that as well.
Yeah.
Um, Somebody said my bakery being closed is killing me. Yes,
Mhm.
I'm kind of glad that my bakery is closed down because I think my bakery being opened was killing me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get that. Grace Smith says, I find that I can't focus on other things that are important. Like when
Uh,
my wife asks about the family budget, I say I just can't get my mind right there right now.
right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big piece, that scattered mind,
Mm,
unable to focus, unable to like just kind of like key in on those tiny details. That's
yeah.
a big thing for me too. I get irritable and restless. Like I
Yeah.
want to, if everything isn't perfectly clean in my house, I am angry, Amanda. It has to be clean and it has to be done my way, and nobody's way is gooder or gooder. Nobody's way is better than my way. You know,
Right.
like if it's
Hmm.
done my way, it's not done the right way. And
Yeah.
then everybody has to suffer for it. So I totally understand.
Yeah, I say one of those things I say to my family, when I'm feeling it, is I say I can't turn my head off. Like my brain is just keep processing stuff, and I can't shut it down like I would normally do. So it just I know I'm not the only one dealing with this, and so I'm glad people are writing in the box. I think it's important to recognize it. Um, what contributes to it? Bearing witness to trauma. You can experience trauma even if it didn't happen to you. If you are watching other traumatic events, that is still trauma. Anybody who witnesses something is traumatic. I witnessed a person who I didn't really know, but he was a client of somebody else. But he went and committed suicide in the building that I was working in. I was on the fifth floor and I saw his body fly past my window. And I looked out. I looked out and I was like, did I see that? And I got out of my office and I ran downstairs to see if I really saw somebody flying past. And there was his body on the sidewalk. Didn't happen to me. I just witnessed it. And that this was over 20 years ago. And to this day, that still is in me. I still can't get rid of that picture of what I saw that day. And it's very powerful. And every time I go to or by that building, that memory just pops up and I just get that same feeling again. So you don't have to actually have the trauma happen to you to have vicarious trauma. Uh, Sometimes working with people, the you feel powerless. And when the person you're working with is feeling powerless, eh, sometimes we take that on, or it's sometimes we feel like we need to fix people. We need to fix it because it's uncomfortable to watch this person feel powerless. And it might be something that we are familiar with, and we want to fix it. We want to get in there and fix it, and we can't. And so that leads to that vicarious trauma. Sometimes our childhood experiences, um, if we're watching parents who were very similar to our parents or had some of the same, issues that our parents had, um, we go right back into that childhood trauma and want to try to, make it right. And another thing is that a lot of us put ourselves on the back burner. We think that it's more important to take care of others than it is to take care of ourselves. And that is really where, putting on your face mask first is key, because it's one of the things that you realize in the long run, or maybe not. I mean, or you might think about it, but it really doesn't take, is that if we're in order to help other people, we have to be in a good space. We have to be in a place where we are feeling comfortable with who we are, and we're feeling like our self-care is in a good place. If we are not taking care of ourselves, it becomes more difficult to help others. And sometimes what happens is we think we're helping others, but we're not helping others. Um, and one example is when we get in there and we try to fix it. Instead of letting the person figure out how to fix it and we work with that person, we will just jump in and start trying to fix it. Um, and and then that can also create trauma because we may think we fixed it and then it doesn't work out. The person, it doesn't take. The person is not happy or the person sabotages it. And then we get more frustrated and it just keeps building. It's like that snowball that goes downhill. It keeps gathering more and more snow, and that snowball gets so big, and we just get more frustrated because we're trying to fix problems and we're not able to do that. I just wanted to see before I move into talking about burnout, if we have any questions out there about vicarious trauma.
I'm cruising through the questions right now. Um, let's see. Antoinette Smith says, working in hospice as a nurse, case manager, explain my experience as this constant grieving process that I was never able to process. And with each case, it was a new grief episode. That's a really great way of putting it, grief episode. Yeah. It was layer after layer. Oh, Antoinette, that is, that gave me the chills. Goodness.
Yeah,
That was a really
absolutely.
apt way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean
Episode after episode.
yeah, I mean you're dealing with it constantly. I just had some people that I'm volunteering with call me Monday night to say that one of the people that they are working with and they've been diligently working with OD'd and died.
Oh,
And
gosh.
they're feeling like if they didn't do enough, they should have done more. Um, and I that's so hard when people are feeling like they've done so much and they and you can't do anymore really. So I get it. I'm gonna, unless there are other critical comments that we have, I'm gonna move talking to burnout.
Not anything critical, although I do want to say, Karen made a comment that she can't see other people's questions or comments, and you won't be able to, Karen. This is being able to see questions or comments is only for the staff or organizers or panelists. So sorry about that.
Yeah, I can't see them either, so we're in the same boat. Um,
Oh, you should be able to see them.
oh, I really? Huh.
I'll try to see what I can do.
Oh, don't, no worries about it. I'm depending on you, so we're good. Um, so let's talk a little bit about burnout. I know a lot of people use that term burnout, um, but it's when we have a cognitive emotional reaction to stress. And we have those high levels of exhaustion resulting from the chronic demands made on our resources or what we have. So constantly dealing with some really, not, I mean, people who are dealing with big issues. If you're dealing with that day in and day out, for instance, being a hospice, you're constantly dealing with, you know, that day after day. If you're working with people with substance use and you're seeing people really struggle with trying to either, get to a point where they're reducing their harm or get to the point of abstinence and they keep relapsing. And, that is hard to keep dealing with that. Or you help people find housing and you think that this is it, that once they get into the housing, that things for them will ease up, and it gets worse. And or they lose the housing. Um, those are very stressful situations. Um, and burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion when you just feel like you have nothing left. uh, I know when I was doing direct care, I got burnt out. I knew I was burnt out because after a while, I, I just kind of felt numb. I really couldn't deal with that excessive and prolonged stress. I hadn't taken a vacation, which should have been a warning sign, because I felt like every time I took a vacation, things would just blow up and people that I were working with would not do well. So I felt like I had to be there. So I wasn't taking care of myself. I was just constantly working. Um, at one point, the agency I was with started looking at the number of hours, and I was putting in the most number of hours. Um, and instead of my supervisor looking at me and saying, wait a minute, let's talk about this, it was kind of like this, woo, Pat's putting in the most hours. And Pat hasn't taken a vacation. And nobody really saw that as Pat had burned out. And Pat was just like constantly trying and trying to figure this out and trying to meet those demands. And then I ended up getting very sick, and I was out for 3 weeks in bed sick, um, because my body finally said enough. And that's how I knew I was burnt out. I got walking pneumonia, and the doctor said, "You can't go to work." And I'm not gonna give. I need you to, take the medication, stay in bed, take care of yourself. And I was forced to take that. My vacation became me being in bed sick, which should not be the way that we deal with um working in this work. That should not, that was so wrong. And hindsight's 2020. I should have taken a vacation. I should have not been bragging about working the most hours. I should have been looking at, why am I working this many hours? And either my job is too big or I'm putting in too much and I need help. And I should have been talking to my supervisor. My supervisor should have been talking to me. And it's rare that, it's not rare, but it, most times the only way you talk about burnout is if you bring it up. Sometimes supervisors don't think about it, or sometimes supervisors are burnt out and don't necessarily see it. So what leads to burnout? Feeling overwhelmed. If you are feeling overwhelmed or overloaded, you feel like your plate's way too full. That should be something you're discussing with your supervisor. Is it really too full? Or is it that you are feeling like it's over too full? Sometimes it's too full. And sometimes we need to be talking to our supervisors about, I got too much on my plate. Can we do something about it? But if everybody else has the same amount on their plate and they're not feeling burnt out, then maybe it's not too much on your plate. You're just overloaded and overwhelmed by it because it's hitting something, or you haven't been taking care of yourself. If you're working in a role that's physically, mentally, or emotionally demanding a lot of the time, that leads to burnout. Bored, not feeling sufficiently challenged can lead to burnout. So you're in a job and you can do it in your sleep and you're doing great at your job, but now your job isn't fulfilling you anymore. You might be in the wrong position and you might be burnt out because you need to either move up in the agency or move to a different position. And sometimes we get there. Feeling underappreciated. That's a big one. If you don't feel appreciated, at work. You're doing your best and nobody's recognizing the great work you do. That can lead to burnout because you've done everything you could possibly do and nobody recognizes it. It could lead to burnout. The compassion fatigue. That's the compassion fatigue is back to the vicarious trauma. Experiencing that over a long period of time will lead to burnout. Isolation. You're not on a team or you're out there working on your own and nobody else, you have nobody to be able to talk about with at work about, what's going on. That can lead to isolation and lead to you feeling burnt out because you don't have a way or a team or people that you can talk to. And, like right now, being in the situation, where some of us can't be working with people right now. And that could be hard. I mean, this whole thing of working at home can lead to a lot of isolation. Right now, one of the things I'm doing is trying to use Skype to visit with people, to see their faces and to talk to people so I don't feel too isolated. I'm trying to, now my screen froze.
I guess
Uh,
your screen is just a little isolated right now.
okay, is it okay now?
It's working fine for me, but my whole go-to is very, very slow, and that's
O-
okay. It's working.
Okay. So some of the symptoms of burnout, um, for your body, headaches, infections, your muscles are tight. You could use a good massage. Fatigue. Sometimes you get skin irritations. Sometimes you feel breathless. That's the body. Your body will react to burnout. Your mind, you're starting to worry a lot. Your thinking is not straight. You're muddled thinking. You can't focus on stuff as well. Your judgment is not good. You're not making good decisions. You're doing things like forgetting your keys, locking yourself out of your house when that's never been an issue. I know somebody who locked their keys in their car and the ignition and the car was still running and just got out of the car and forgot to take their keys, forgot to turn off the car and take their keys out and left the car running. Um, you can't make decisions. You're feeling like everything feels too big and you can't decide on stuff. Or you're making hasty decisions that, wouldn't normally make. Your behavior, you're starting to have accidents. You fall down the stairs or you trip and fall over stuff or you hit a car, you rear end a car because you're not paying attention. um Loss of appetite. I wish I had that from stress because I would be skinny, but for me it's overeating, it's comfort food. Loss of sex drive. You find yourself wanting to drink more, or you can't sleep, or you start smoking, or you start smoking a lot more than you normally smoke. Those are the behaviors. The emotions. You're irritable. You're fussy about stuff. You're depressed. You start alienating. You stop talking to your friends or your family members that you usually go to. You start to have apathy. You don't care about stuff as much as you used to. You just are like, don't care. Or, the things that used to be, important to you are not as important to you at that moment. Like some of the things, like I know for me, one of the things is I stopped going to the gym. I stopped exercising. I don't talk to friends as much as I used to. Those are all signs of burnout. Anybody out there experiencing some of these signs or some different ones from burnout?
Hey, Pat.
Yeah.
what about the possibility as well of for those people who experience substance use disorders as well in their past, who've been clean and sober for a very long time and maybe relapse as well
Oh,
in order to cope?
absolutely. Absolutely. Relapsing or people with mental health issues, all of a sudden, the medication used to work and now you're experiencing some symptoms even though you're taking your medication. Um, all of those things are signs of burnout.
So
Are they?
I show in the chat box. Some people are. Oh, actually, I don't show in the chat box for some reason. It's being very, very slow. I apologize. Let me try to bring it up one more time. It's being kind of a pain. I apologize. Let me try again. um, let's see if we can do this. Undock these questions one more time. Here we go. Good. Now it's refreshed. So a lot of people are saying that isolation is really a big deal, especially right now.
Mhm.
And Natalia said that she has a colleague that she can talk to, which is fantastic. But she no longer has anyone in her project or team directly that, uh, if she can, she said, so let's see, it says, but I no longer have anyone on my project team directly. So if I take a vacation or feel off and want to call in sick, it just means work piles up on her. And that can be
Uh-huh.
really detrimental.
Oh man,
And
isn't that's
yeah,
horrible? You go on vacation and then you need a vacation because when you come back, everything's waiting for you and that's so stressful.
it's daunting. It's daunting
Mhm.
to think I want to go away for a week. I'm going to relax. I'm not going to take my laptop. I'm not going to take my cell phone. I'm just going to be quiet and exist in my own world. And then the whole anxiety idea of coming back to 8 million emails and 50 different fires, and
Mhm.
that right there takes away from the vacation experience.
Yeah, and then you
If you're
don't want
even
to take
brave
a
enough to take
vacation.
one.
Right.
Right. So that can be really, that can really contribute to burnout as well, and keep you from taking those earned vacation hours and time away in order to rejuvenate yourself. So it takes
Mhm.
a certain amount of bravery, really. I know it seems like a weird word to say, but it really it takes a real big push internally just to make yourself take that step toward vacation and
Mhm.
toward self-care.
Absolutely. No, and being on a team by yourself when you go on vacation and there's nobody to pick up the slack, and when you come back from vacation, you're going to have to deal with all of the issues that happened while you were on vacation, plus the issues that come up at that time. And that's overwhelming, it's daunting, and it really makes you think about, do I need to take a vacation because I'm going to come back and it's going to be even more.
That's exactly it. Especially if you're working on your own on a project and there's
Mm-hmm.
nobody to support you. That's a really scary idea that you
Yeah,
may be swamped for even longer.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean and that happens a lot, and it happens to a lot of us, even if we are on a team. Nobody can really pick up the slack because they already have a full caseload, and they may deal with a couple of issues that are emergencies, but all your work is going to still be there, and it's going to be even more work. So you come back from vacation and now you got to put in 60 hours to catch up. That kind of takes away the vacation.
Exactly.
So there's some some of us feel stress, and I wanted to try to talk about the difference between stress and burnout, because sometimes we get overstressed and we think it's burnout, but it's not always burnout. So stress is when you over engage. Burnout is when you can't engage anymore. You take yourself out of it. You have nothing left to give. When it's stress, your emotions are overactive or overreactive. Your stress is you something that is irritating normally becomes frustrating and pisses you off big time. Like your emotions are over the top. That's stress. When it's burnout, your emotions are blunted. You're just like I have nothing there. There's nothing there. There's nothing that can get me excited. There's nothing that, makes me worry. You just kind of turn off. You kind of get numb. Uh, when it's stress, you have urgency and hyperactivity. You're doing everything. Everything feels urgent. Everything you're hyper about stuff. When it's burnout, you feel helpless and hopeless. I can't do anything. I can't help. I don't know what to do. In stress, it's a loss of energy. In burnout, it's a loss of motivation, ideals, and hope. You used to have hope and feel like you can make a difference. When it's burnout, you feel like there's nothing I can do to help. Everything I've done doesn't seem to be doing anything. That's burnout, and I've been there. Um, Stress can lead to anxiety disorders. Um, for burnout, you detach and you're depressed. You just have cut off everything and you're depressed. You don't have anything left to give. In stress, the primary damage is physical. In stress, your body starts to feel it. Like I got I developed a bleeding ulcer at work. That was stress. If at my body, my stomach will feel the stress. For me, it's my stomach. I start developing stomach issues. Like, you know, indigestion, heartburn, all of those things. That for me is one of my physical things that I get when I'm overstressed. When it's burnout, your stress is predominantly emotional. You have nothing in there to give. You can't help people. You can't help yourself. You don't want to do anything. You just want to, shut down, or you have shut down. Stress can kill you prematurely. People all the time can die from stress. I believe that stress leads to other major physical issues with your body. It will affect you in ways. When you're stressed, you're more apt to get colds, flu, other things. I think in this time of this COVID-19, if you're too stressed, your body becomes more susceptible to stuff, to catching things that your body would normally be able to fight, but because you're so stressed, your immune system is not where it needs to be. So your body will take on stuff and you will catch a lot of things. Um, and when it's burnout, you feel like, is life worth it? It's not worth living. I just don't want to be. I'm done. I have nothing left. I don't even know if it's worth living because I've given everything I have, and I'm just there's nothing left for me to give. And there's a difference. And I put these up here because I think it's important to realize when you're overly stressed, because no, neither of these are good. N- you know, yeah, there's a difference between them, but either way, it's gonna not be good for you to be overly stressed or to be burnt out. Both of those are going to affect you. They affect you differently, but they both just lead to either you being sick or you not wanting to live or you not feeling like you have anything to give anybody. Both are very hard to deal with, and we need to be aware of them. And we need to be constantly trying to take care of ourselves. And we're going to talk about ways to take care of yourself in a little bit. I know right now it's all doom and gloom, but there are things that we can do to take care of ourselves and not die early or die young or die before it's time or just overeating, because stress for me is, oh, I eat to take care of myself, and that will kill me because if I'm overeating, that's gonna put other stressors on my body, on my system that it can't handle, and that will kill me. Um, and so is it clear the difference between stress and burnout? Okay, here ain't nothing. I'm gonna assume it's clear.
Somebody wants to know, though, everybody's agreeing that it's clear so far, but they want to know if you can have stress and burnout at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can have both at the same time. And having both at the same time is really difficult. Um, because remember, you can have some of us have stress at work, but a lot of us also have stress at home. So you could be burnt out at home and be overly stressed I mean, you could be burnt out at work and overly stressed at home. And so, yeah, you can have both because we don't just live in the work world. We also have the home world where we go home, and if things at home are difficult, you got a kid who's having, special issues or struggling with stuff, your marriage or your partner, and you are having issues, or your partner's having, some type of issues or health issues. Some of us go from being burnt out at work and then get home and you're so stressed out at home that you're getting it on both ends. And yeah, you can for sure have both. You can also have, in your private world, there are times that I feel like all of my friends and family are calling me with issues, and it seems like it happens at the same time. So I get hit from home with everybody else is calling on me, asking me for help or talking to me about their issues. And then I go to work and I'm talking to people there about issues. You can get it on both ends. And so sometimes it's not just work. Sometimes it's also our home life or our personal life that is also stressful. Are there other comments, Amanda?
I am. So a lot of people are saying that they have some symptoms, but not all of them. Um, some people are saying that like some days they are experiencing both symptoms, but not all of, but not
Hmm.
every day, which I experienced that too, especially my last, because I had a lot of a lot of large home traumas the last year and a half of my direct service experience. I was really struggling with maintaining my professional boundaries and dealing with I like to call it compassion fatigue,
Hmm.
because I was struggling a lot with my personal problems at home, and then and trying to be compassionate towards my participants. And so I just felt myself it sounds silly, but withering. And I very much felt like that little match that you had shown the picture of,
Mm-hmm.
where all the other matches were all wonderful and easygoing and looked like they were just ready to light a fire. And I had already been all crumbled up and I had nothing left to give in any
Yeah.
arena whatsoever. And it had gotten to a point where in my home life, you know, and in my work life, everybody was saying, are you upset with me? Are you mad at me? What was I doing? You know, what am I doing wrong? And it was
Mm-hmm.
affecting me everywhere. And
Yeah.
so, you know, it's funny because Aaron Tackett just said, feeling of just giving up and going to work at Papa Murphy's.
Yeah.
It's really apt, because I felt like, you know what? I'm ready to just go work at a gas station. That was
Uh-huh.
my favorite job in the whole entire world up to that
Yeah.
point. I didn't have to work with anybody. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to, you know, all I had to do was cash people out and go do some fun stuff, you
Yeah.
know, and I didn't have to be in charge of anybody's mental health. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about anything big. You know, all I did was dust some stuff off, face some shelves, stock some stuff up, and deal with cash. And I
Yeah.
was good with that, because I
Yeah.
was just past the point of no return. And I think a lot of people feel that way, because sometimes, like Malika Lamont just said, and I apologize, Malika. I really hope that I said your name correctly. How can we approach our boss with the amount of stress the job is placing on us when they operate in the same stress and chaos? And,
Yeah.
you know, that's the thing, is how do you approach your supervisor and say, hey, I can't operate like this anymore, without them thinking, wow, did I hire the wrong person to do this job if they can't handle it? Because that's the fear, is that they're going to
Yeah.
say, oops, I hired the wrong person.
Or the agency is so dysfunctional that that level of stress, everybody's experiencing it, and nobody knows how to deal with it. And people, the way people deal with it is they leave. And so,
Right. Which is
sometimes you could be in a very dysfunctional agency that really doesn't know how to uh, deal with it or deal with the stress. And so everybody's overstressed. Everybody's feeling the same thing. And so you talking about it is like, okay, yeah, you're feeling that way. We all are feeling that way. And sometimes we're at an agency where they don't know how to deal with it. And there's
or
no
it's so
awareness of,
normal.
yeah.
And
And
that's
and so
unfortunate, that it's such a normal atmosphere in some
uh-huh.
places, that if you come to your supervisor and you say, this is really bothering me, and they say, well, welcome to the party, you
Uh-huh.
know, there's no
Exactly.
solution. um, and so I just want to throw a plug out there, and I know, and this isn't just to plug a training, but this is to offer support. We have some fantastic trainings through DBHR for intentional supervision. Rutgers offers it, and you can reach out to Kimberly Castle, and I'll make sure I toss out her email. In fact, actually, Kimberly's on this call. Kimberly, if you don't mind throwing out your email address um, through the chat for everybody to see. Kimberly has a fantastic training through Tom Bartholomew, through Rutgers, for intentional supervision,
Mm-hmm.
um, specifically around vicarious trauma, burnout, and ways that your supervisors can see that and help you avoid it and or treat it in the workplace. We'll be doing in July how to supervise peers in the workplace. So for supervisors, so we're really kind of going at this year on how to retain and how to create a healthy work environment in this arena. So please stay tuned.
Yeah, and it's important to try to have that balance. And sometimes if you're in an agency that is really, always reacting and never planning for, you know, sometimes you really need to take a look at, is your work environment healthy for you? And also, we need to take some ownership of trying to take care of ourselves. And we'll talk about that, but um, we need to be proactive in trying to take care of ourselves. and not waiting for our supervisors to say, "Are you okay? Are you overstressed, or are you burnt out?" Many times supervisors don't want to have that conversation, or they don't know how to have that conversation, or they're burnt out and they're just pushing through. But I think it's important to, that we take some ownership of ourselves and try to make sure, if, like some people said they were experiencing some of those issues. And I think if you're experiencing some of those issues, now is the time to try to make some changes. Now is the time to start thinking about ways to take care of yourself. Because right now, experiencing some of those, that it's telling you something. It's saying, look, you need to pay attention to this, you need to take care of this, you need to start dealing with it. And I think it's like a wake up call. It's time to wake up and start trying to take care of yourself. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the ABCs of addressing vicarious trauma. First, you need to be aware. You need to be aware of your own needs, your own limits, your emotions, and your resources. Paying attention to you and being aware of it is the first step. So now, we talked about that stress, we talked about burnout, and you're aware that you have some of those symptoms or some of those issues. Now is the time to start to deal with it. So if you have some awareness of it, there's still time. We need to have a balance. And this for me was very key. I had a very high paying job and I was working my butt off to the point of it was nothing for me to put in 60 to 70 hours a week and go home and eat and just go to bed, or go home and eat and have a drink and go to bed and then get up and do it all over again. And every week I was spending more time working and I really wasn't doing anything for myself. Um, I quit that job and people were looking at me going, "How, man, you left a good job." And I thought, it was paying well, but I had no balance. I had no balance of home and work. I was not paying attention to stuff at home. It fell all on my partner. My partner had to take care of the house because I had nothing. By the time I got home, I was done. All I wanted to do was eat to soothe myself. So I was eating bad. I wasn't eating healthy and having a couple of drinks and then trying to sleep at night and usually not having a good night of sleep because I had acid reflux. And so, it was just this loop. And I quit my job and took a lower paying job, like Amanda was saying, taking a job where I could have some balance. And for me, yeah, I had to make some changes in life because, it's not easy losing, $50,000 a year. Um, but at the same time, I felt like if I didn't do that, I was gonna be killing myself. So we have to make sure we have some balance. We need to make sure that we're not just taking care of everybody else and not taking care of ourselves. So that balance is important. Making sure you have connections, um, connections to yourself and connections to others and connections to something bigger than yourself, whatever that is for you. Um, for some people, that's religion. For some people, that's spirituality. For some people, that's community. Whatever that something bigger is for you or something larger, we need to feel connected to that. And that's very important to dealing with this. Um, for me, this first one, ask for help, that is so hard for me. And I'm just being totally honest, I rarely ask for help. And when I do ask for help, people just stare at me like, what do you want me to do? Like, because I've never asked for help. It's so hard sometimes to ask for help for some of us. And sometimes we need to ask for help. If you're feeling overwhelmed in this job, sometimes we don't have the ability to quit a job because we have to have that job for our families. But sometimes we need to just go to a supervisor and say, look, I need help. I'm having a difficult time. I got too much on my plate, and and just being able to have that conversation and going through what's on your plate, and maybe there's ways that you can take something off the plate. Maybe the supervisor could help you prioritize what's on your plate. um but sometimes we need to go and ask for help. We also, and this is not necessarily for all of us, but in agencies, and we but we can still help. In agencies, there should be a climate that you can encourage self-help or self-care. I went to this one agency to do a training, and they had a gym on site. They had medical professionals that would come in to take care of the staff, where they, instead of being able, you could go and get a, somebody, if you had like a minor injury or a minor issue, there was somebody you could go and see. um but they made a point. Oh, they also gave out points if you um joined the gym and had a plan of how to how many times a week you were going to the gym. You could gather points, and after you got so many points, you could take those points and use it for a day off, or use it to do something else, or get something that they had little gifts you could turn your points in for. it, we're not necessary. This was a for-profit company, so they had the money to do that. But we can still, even in our nonprofits, have an organizational climate that encourages self-care. One of the things you can do if you're not a supervisor is you can talk to your supervisor and say, maybe in our meetings we can spend the first 5 minutes of the meeting talking about what we're doing to take care of ourselves, just so we can make sure it's something that we're all thinking about as a team. Um, I think we can do little steps in our agencies to make sure that we're encouraging self-care. Um, but that it sometimes we have to really try to create that as at the agency level, because we don't have the power to do it at our own level. We also have to make self-care a routine, not an infrequent occurrence. So we need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves before we get too stressed out or before we burn out. We should be doing self-care all the time. It should be a routine. It should be part of your day. It should just be every day you have something to do to take care of yourself, whatever that looks like for you. So I'm gonna go through some issues, but are there comments?
Pat, there is. Daniel Rylander wants to know if you could please remind her what the ABCs are. She would like to write. I hope I have. I'm sorry.
We,
Danielle would like to write down what the ABCs are really quick. If you could
oh,
repeat them slowly.
okay. The ABCs was awareness, and if people want this PowerPoint slide, I have no problem with giving it out.
I'll be sending it out in the follow-up email as a PDF, and it's
Okay,
also already uploaded in the handouts. If everybody would like to download it automatically in the handout section, so that's available as well. But I will be sending out a follow-up email with resources, the recording link, and the PDF. But it would be great if people want to write it down too. That would be great
yeah.
for you,
Oh no,
Repeat, if you don't
I
mind.
I think it's great to write it down. So the ABCs are awareness. You need to be aware of what's going on, aware of what your needs are and your limits and what you have to give. Uh, Balance. Having a balance of work and play. A balance of how taking care of others and taking care of yourself, and making sure you have a connection to yourself, a connection to others, and to something larger than you. Those are the ABCs, and I think those are important. And I think writing them down is great. Um, and so I think in this webinar, some of you are having some of the awareness of the issues. And so now that you have awareness, you have to take the next steps. You need to make sure you have a balance. You need to make sure you have connections. Um, so I'm not gonna keep going on that because I want to talk about a little bit about some of the strategies for how you can take care of yourself. Because I think, it's important um to know and think of ways that work for you. And these are just a few, and these were just off the top of my head. So psychologically, if you like to write, writing in a journal, that is very good for some people to just try to get some of that stuff out of their head and get it onto paper. um so for some of you others, it might be drawing. Some people like to draw, and that's also great for you to really come become, get it out of your head and get it on paper. We need to be able to share our feelings with somebody. um and that could be a coworker, it could be a therapist, it could be your spouse, it could be a friend. But just having somebody there that you can talk to about what you're feeling. And a lot of times you just need somebody to listen. You don't need somebody to fix things. You just need to be able to share. um we need to be able to vent emotions in safe ways. Throwing ice cubes or playing sad music. Or I'll give you an example of how I've been trying to take care of myself and vent emotions. In the last couple of days, I have a piece of concrete in my backyard that I want to get rid of. And I've been going out after work and just spending about 15 minutes with a sledgehammer hitting that concrete and breaking it up. And it is so self satisfying and smooth and soothing for me to do that. And it just feels good to get it out, to let it out and just put it all out there. And you know, it feels good. So, I used the box, and hitting a bag, a heavy bag felt good. I would just picture all of the things that frustrated me and just pound on that bag for a little bit until I was exhausted. So you need to find what is a way to get stuff out there. Hitting a pillow is one of the things I've heard somebody do. um, Somebody said they like to watch a sad movie and they'll just sit there and sob, and that felt good to get it out. Whatever is a way for you, I highly encourage it. And so I'm challenging you to think about ways that you can refuel yourself, ways that you can take care of yourself. um Sometimes some people like to visualize, and visualize a safe and nurturing place and visit it regularly. Some people do the visualization, and that works for them. So some of the things I'm giving you are just examples. There are so many ways we can take care of ourselves, and I'm going to give you more. So the safe place visualization that I was talking about, sometimes affirmations, to counter negative thinking. I've seen people write stuff and put it on their board or put it by their desk. And you see it and you're like, huh, that's really good. Stuff like, I may not be perfect, but I'm perfectly fine. My needs and feelings count too. I will treat myself as kindly as I treat others. I will respond to myself with compassion. These are just some affirmations. You can have different ones, but sometimes it's helpful to write them down and put them in a place that you can see them. Doesn't have to be at work. It could be at home. It could be in your car. It could be wherever you need it to be. It could be on your phone where you just look at it, or it could be something that you save as your screensaver. Whatever it's gonna be that's gonna make you feel better. Physically, getting a massage, or asking for comforting touch by somebody, or um, having a none should exercise like walking or playing or doing something where you don't have to do something, where you can give yourself permission to do what feels good for you right then and there. Creating a healing or sacred space in your office or at your home where it's a space for just you, or a space that you can go that gives you a chance to rejuvenate or relax, or just be in a place that you can focus on you. You can practice some radical self-care, whatever that looks like for you. All of us are going to have different ways that we take care of ourselves. um, I know people who say, "Oh, if I go fishing, that's perfect for me. Going fishing, it's relaxing, and I could just be with myself and shut my brain off and just be there, be in the moment." Some people exercise. Um, some people go for walks in nature. Whatever it is, we need to make sure we're paying attention to what is good for us. Sometimes it's socially, making time for pleasing social activities. Trying getting out and trying some new things. Ask a friend to just listen for 15 minutes. Or gather with kindred spirits. Going to church or support groups or clubs or other organizations where you can gather with people that make you feel good, or where you all have something in common. That's a way you can do it. Socially, connecting with people, just connect with somebody else. Get involved in organizing, or get involved with something outside of your work. Do something different. Join a support group, or see if others at work would like to start a self-care support group where you can all get together and talk about, ways to take care of each other and ways to do it. Um, Spiritually, there's the three C's. I didn't cause it, I can't change it, and I can't control it. So, you can have the three C's, or, for some others, it could be the three P's. You can pause, pray, and proceed. So those are, and I like those because they're easier to remember. You can be like the three C's. I got to take that to heart. I didn't cause it, I can't change it, and I can't control it. Um, and it's sometimes important for us to realize we can't control everything. We have to give up some things. Um, and also, the three P's are going to work for some other people. Pause, then pray, and then proceed. Some people have to pray. Some people are very spiritual. You could also engage in a spiritual practice that is meaningful to you. I know some people who like to go home and, you know, take a nice bath, bubble bath, and put candles on and just, look, just disappear into themselves. Create a ritual that speaks to you. Do something that is gonna make you feel good. Um, you could also walk in nature. Do something or whatever that brings you closer to something bigger than yourself. You can read inspirational materials, or put some inspirational quotes or pictures or images around you. Whatever. Oops, I went too far. Let me go back. um Other things is try to develop some realistic expectations for yourself, and then And employees, if you're a supervisor, maybe the expectations are unrealistic. Or maybe as the person, our expectations are unrealistic. We think we're superheroes and we can help fix people. We can't fix people. None of us in this group can fix anybody. People have to fix themselves. We can go on that journey with them, we can be supportive, but we cannot fix people. If possible, set aside some time in staff meetings to allow people to share their feelings. I think, for some of us, we could bring that up to our supervisor. Can we just allow some time for this? We also need to realize we can't expect quick fixes. So you might be stressed to the max or burnt out or having vicarious trauma, and you go, okay, I'm gonna go for a walk in the woods today, and then I'll be better. Well, one time walking in the woods is not gonna necessarily fix everything. This needs to be, remember I said before, it needs to be a routine. It can't be you do it now and expect that everything will be okay if you just deal with yourself one day, and the other 30 days of the month you're not dealing with yourself. You have to do this on a regular basis in order for it to take. And I love this saying and I love this quote. um if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. So I wanted to leave us a little time. I know we don't have a ton of time, but I wanted to leave us a little time. If you have questions or thoughts or anything you wanted to share, now's the time.
There's lots of really great comments, Pat, and so some people are saying that they have like visual reminders. So we have one person here who says that they have a tattoo on their forearm that says breathe, pray, smile, repeat, which I think is fantastic.
That's awesome.
There's a like, so, Kimberly and you and I are big fans of tattoos. So
Uh-huh.
that's a fantastic way of having that regular reminder. There's Minette Smith, and Minette. I'm not sure if I said that name right, and I apologize if I butchered it. Says, heck yes, I smashed my toilet when we had to replace it, and it was great therapy. So don't forget to wear safety goggles. I
Uh-huh.
think that's great. I know that here in Wenatchee, we had a really fantastic opportunity for somebody donated a car for a children's fair at one of the local schools, and they dressed them all up in all the safety gear and gave them a baseball bat and let them just
Oh,
tear
that's
this car up.
awesome.
And it was a really great way for these kids to just like go to town on this car and release all of this energy. And it was only the kids who really wanted to be or needed to get that out of their system, and they did. And some of these kids just went to town. My son was one of them. It was a while ago, but it's a fantastic way of releasing stress. So,
Yeah.
acknowledging the fact that you need to release that stress and getting it out of your system is really, really important. It's like drawing poison from the wound, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
So somebody says, I've taken this training. Anita Perez Briner says, I've taken this training before, and I have to say I really enjoyed it this time around. Great information, and Pat is wonderful. Deb Murphy
Thank
says,
you.
excellent presentation. So yes, I agree. Pat, every time you do this, it just gets better and better, and it seems like we're just reaching everybody exactly the way they need to be reached in this situation, especially
Yes.
given the current climate right now. I think self-care and vicarious trauma is a huge piece right now, and we really, really, really need to focus on taking care of ourselves.
Right, exactly. And right now, it's even more important to take care of yourselves because some of us have been isolated from others. Um, and also, it's stressful. I mean, it is stressful worrying about your family, worrying about your parents and grandparents, and worrying about yourself. And that worrying about everybody is not helpful. Um, but in this day and age, it's we now have additional stresses added to our plate. So some of us already had the stress at work and had the stress at home, and now we got this other stressor, and that could be overwhelming. It is really important to find whatever it is that you need to take care of yourself. Write it down so you don't forget it. Sometimes people write down stuff and it's important, or draw it, or somehow you need to make sure you're trying to practice it every day. And I'm gonna challenge every one of us, and including myself, and I'm gonna have to do this as well. Every day for the next month, try to do something for yourself every day, whether it takes you 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a half an hour. Let's try to do something for ourselves every day for the next month. Let's just try to practice that. And I'm gonna try it myself because I'm not I'm in the same boat that you're in. I forget to take care of myself. I'm good at taking care of others, but a lot of times I put myself on the back burner. And I'm gonna try it for the next 30 days to take care of myself. And I challenge you to take care of yourself just for 30 days. Once a day, try to do something for yourself, whatever that looks like for you.
Thank you, Pat. We want to say how much we appreciate your time and your effort and your willingness to work with us and to reach out to Washington State. And I accept your challenge. And 30 days, I'm going to be working on myself and doing something kind for myself every single day. And hopefully that will be contagious. And my family will step up and do the same thing for themselves. And it will lower the stress in our household. So thank you very, very much. Oh, looks like we have other people who are in and accept your challenge as well. So
Good.
on
Yeah, I'm sitting there. I'm actually getting teary eyed. It's weird because I'm really feeling this today. Um, so when I put out the challenge, it's because I also need it.
Well, I think we all need it, and we need you. We need everybody in Washington State, every single one of you who are in this call. We need you all, and we appreciate every single one of you. And thank you so much, Washington State, for tuning in, for staying healthy, for staying with us, for working hard for our participants and for yourselves. And please don't hesitate to reach out to Kimberly Castle or myself or any member of DBHR, and know that we are here to support you as much as possible. On behalf of Washington, Pat, I want to say thank you again. We appreciate you endlessly. And if there's anything that we can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Thank you very much, everybody, and thanks for being here. And let's take care of ourselves. Let's treat ourselves as if we were one of our clients.
100%. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Don't forget to get out there and take care of yourself and release some of that stress and anxiety. Please make sure you check your emails and wait for the follow-up, and we will make sure you get that link and all of those extra resources. And if you have any extra or additional questions, don't hesitate to respond to my email, and I'll do my very best to help out. We'll talk to you next time. We'll have a link in there for the follow-up for the following month of May's topical webinar, and it is 10 o'clock, so I'm going to let you go. Everybody, have a fantastic day and take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.